Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Hima, and today my group will present to you all about intercultural communication. And our title for today is The Lemon Miscommunication Hilarity. So, while enjoying your lemon juice, I will explain about the presentation outline and also the presenter. First, I will give you the introduction. I will explain about the settings of our case study, and also I will show you a short video made by our group. Next, Hui will explain about linguistic differences. She will be using research question and example to support her idea. And third, Yan Song will explain and will elaborate on high versus low context culture. First, he will compare between the high and low context culture, and followed by the case study, and also he will also give us the tips on how to move from a low context country into a high context country, or vice versa. And fourth, Xiaolan will elaborate on task and time orientation. She will also explain about the contribution of the time and task orientation to country development. And last but not the least, Sangka will give us the conclusion, which consists of the summary and tips on how to improving the intercultural communication. Now let's move on to our first part, which is the introduction. And as you can see, this is my picture. For our case study, the settings is the case study just happened recently. So it was happened in 2011 in early month. It was happened in one of the hypermarket in Singapore. So it happened between two persons, which is one of them is the Westerner who just came from Singapore, who just came from North America to Singapore, and the other person is a hypermarket staff, and he is a local. And to give you a better understanding about the situation, I will show you a video. So please enjoy the video. One lemon, please. Next. So, can you please wet my lemon?
No one. No one, eh?
I got what you mean. You mean?
Nobody but you. I want nobody but you.
Need no one, eh?
But I want to buy one lemon.
No, no one. Need two.
So I need to buy two lemons.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Walao eh, tak mo. $10. Thank you.
Two lemons.
Ni, wait, plastic bag oh.
I don't want to buy plastic bag. I want to buy two lemons.
Mà you need to put in plastic bag for the weight oh. $10. Thank you.
because there are some arrangement has been made to the real situation. Now, we would like to analyze the case study by using 3 different viewpoints. First is the linguistic differences, second is the high versus low context, and the third is the time and task orientation. So now I would like to invite Hui to explain to us about the linguistic differences. Hui, please.
Okay, thank you, Himawan. I'm Zihui. So in my part, I will analyze the miscommunication problem that brought about the misunderstanding in our case studies based on the linguistic differences. Well, before I proceed, I would like to address 2 questions. Firstly, is the language choice of the Singaporean staff? As you can see from the video, the Singaporean staff was using their native language, that's the Singlish, when trying to convey a simple message to a foreigner customer. But the foreigner customer has difficulty in understanding it. So the second question will answer how his language choice affect the effective communication between him and the customers. Well, many Singaporeans has get used to speaking Singlish with their friends, families and colleagues in their daily life. Singlish is actually a unique culture in Singapore. It reflects the multiracial and multi-ethnic society in Singapore. Various groups in Singapore have their own language. So basically, Singlish is composed of multiple languages. And because of this characteristic, Singlish involves a lot of code switching. So we always say that Singaporeans are a natural speaker of multiple languages. Other than that, Singlish contains a lot of functional verbs such as ma, le, lo. As we can notice from the video, the local staff was using le and lo when communicating with the foreigner customer. Actually, this le and lo are influenced by Hokkien character, which is to soften the tone when making a command or request. Hence, many Singlish speakers will feel that it's more easier and comfortable to speak in Singlish rather than proper English. So let's take it for example. In hawker center, when trying to ask your friend to reserve a seat, many Singlish speakers will say, "Hey, chop the seat for me leh." But for Westerner who speak standard English, they will say, "Can you reserve a seat for me?" So for you, which statement do you usually use when trying to ask your friend to reserve a seat for you? For me, I would normally use the Singlish one because it sounds more friendly and simple. Although I'm not a Singaporean. There are, for instance, different concepts of being polite. Please is always used in Western culture when making a command or request. But in Eastern society, typically in Singapore, please is seldom used because it sounds more formal and distant. Therefore, in the video, we noticed that the local staff didn't use please when communicating with the foreigner customer, and the foreign customer may feel that the staff was being not so polite when asking him to get another lemon. To summarize, Singlish gives identity to many Singaporeans. It reflects the multi-ethnic society in Singapore. However, for working purpose, we still encourage that the staff can be more flexible and adaptive in switching between Singlish and standard English according to the condition to avoid any misunderstanding. This is all for my part. Next speaker Yan Xiong will elaborate more on how high context and low context society affect the intercultural communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Sihui, and good morning to everyone. I'm Yan Xiong. Okay, there are 2 goals for my goal today. Firstly, is to introduce high versus low context. High versus low context by analyzing our case. And the second goal for today is to give you some tips on how to adapt to others' culture. Okay, firstly, there is a table that summarizes the characteristic. There's a table that summarizes the characteristic of high versus low context. On your left hand side is a high context characteristic, while on your right hand side is a low context characteristic. Okay. Can you see clearly? There are three main points that I wish to highlight in this table. The first one is the use of verbal. The high context person, in our case, is the local staff, tends to use less verbal. For example, he just said no one. Another characteristic that I wish to point out is the reliance on circumstances. The local staff actually expected the foreign customer to understand Singapore culture before he can understand the local staff message. Another characteristic is that if we correlate this high versus low context culture to course-fed human mental programming, the high context person tends to be more collectivistic. A low context person tends to be more individualistic. Okay, in the next slide, I wish to illustrate more on the characteristic, which is by providing another example in the office working environment. So there are two supervisors. Supervisor A will tell you like this: well, I have a higher regard of your ability, I regret to inform you. Or the supervisor B will just say, I cannot accept your proposal, please come up with better ideas. The supervisor A will inform you, will convey the message to you in a more indirect approach, which is a high context person. But supervisor B will just shoot at you in a more direct tone, so he tends to be a low context person, which is included in the table, the second column. Okay. Now, after illustrating the characteristic of the high and low context culture, now I wish to move on to share some suggestions for you to adapt to other culture. Firstly, if you are moving to a high context culture, for example, Asian countries like Japan, Korea, China, or Singapore, you may expect to use less verbal and to expect small but very close groups. You need to understand their common culture before you can communicate effectively with them. However, if you are moving to a low context culture like North American or European culture, then you may need to use more verbal, give more instructions, more clearer instructions, and to be more independent, which is to be more individualistic and to expect less intimate groups. Okay. So, before I end my presentation, I wish to reiterate my goal for today, which is to illustrate the characteristic of the high versus low context by applying it to our case study and to share some tips for you to adapt to others' culture. So, there's a take-home message for you. If you understand cultural context, you are not endangered in communication. Okay, now I shall pass the time to Xiaolan. Thank you.
Thank you, Yan Xiong, for his presentation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Xiaolan. Would like to further analyze our case study on time and task orientation. Perhaps we can ask ourselves, are high task-oriented countries more developed than high social-oriented countries? To answer this question, we should consider two factors that contribute to the development. First factor, time orientation. Based on our case study, it's more to monochronic cultures. To the local hypermarket staff, time is very crucial, and his values are efficiency, money, meeting deadlines, and getting work done. In contrast, polychronic cultures values building business relationships. In this case, the local hypermarket staff failed to do so. Second factor, or another factor, is task orientation. Based on our case study, high task orientation, to the local hypermarket staff, he is very positive, self-assured, and result-driven person. And his value, accomplishment, and result. In contrast, high social orientation values others' feelings and or emotions. From our case study, we can infer that the local hypermarket staff is a high task-oriented person and adapting very much to a monochronic cultures. So, can we conclude that Singapore is a more developed country? Let us take a look at this country's development map, which categorizes countries according to their degree of development. For North America, certain regions of Europe, Japan, and Australia, which indicated in navy blue, they are very high developed countries. And not forgetting Singapore. Singapore is as well a very high developed country. Whereas for Indonesia and Thailand, which indicated in light blue and white, they are medium and low developing countries respectively. The reason why I show this map is to summarize that those countries indicated in navy blue are most likely to be high task-oriented countries, whereas for Indonesia and Thailand are most likely to be high social-oriented countries. And to end my presentation, I would like to conclude that high task-oriented countries are more developed than high social-oriented countries. Thank you. And I'll pass the rest of the time to our next presenter, Senka.
Thank you, Solan. Good morning, everyone. I'm Senka, and I'll be presenting on the last part of our group presentation this morning. Basically, I'll be summarizing what my group mates have presented, as well as recommending ways to improve intercultural communication. So, before I start, just to make sure that you guys have been listening to what my group mates have presented just now, I have prepared a small quiz for you all, and with prizes. Yes. So, the rule of the game is very easy. Anyone who knows the answer, please raise your hand and shout out the answer. If your answer is correct, bingo, I give you the Kit Kat. Yes. So, ready? The question is like this. What are the 3 viewpoints that our groups have employed to analyze the case study just now? Yes. Anyone? What are 3 viewpoints? No one. Something about task and time orientation? Miss Fang? Don't know. Last chance. I have 3 Kit Kat to give out. Okay, never mind. I will save the Kit Kat for my lunch later. Yes, so the 3 viewpoints are linguistic differences, high versus low context culture, as well as time and task orientation. So, I will start off with linguistic differences. The scenario has taken place because there was a variation in the language employed by the hypermarket staff and the foreign customer. The hypermarket staff, being a Singaporean, speaks English in which the foreign customer has problem understanding. Ultimately, it is up to us to decide when to speak Singlish and when to speak English based on different situations. While from the viewpoint of high versus low context culture, we infer that the hypermarket staff is a person of high context, which relies more on non-verbal communication. It was due to the lack of verbal communication that caused the misunderstanding to happen. For instance, instead of saying in full sentence,
"Sir, you cannot buy one lemon only. You need to buy at least 2 lemons." The hypermarket staff said it in a very concise way. "No one." As if saying one more word will take the breath out of him. This is actually exhibited by many people in Asian countries, including Singapore. Nonetheless, although currently being a high context country, Singapore is slowly moving her way towards the direction of low context culture as a result of globalization. Okay. Thirdly, we say that the hypermarket staff is a high time and task oriented person. Yes. The hypermarket staff ignore building relationship with the customer because he just wanted to get his job done in no time at all. In fact, this very much reflects the society of Singapore. Most companies and people just wanted to just focusing more on achievements and results rather than interpersonal relationship. Okay, lastly, I would like to take on these precious opportunities to share with you all a few ways to improve intercultural communication so as to make our world a better place to live in. Yes, so guys, are you still with me? Anyone fall asleep? Okay, to make sure no one falls asleep, I need you all to do a very simple task. Hold your cup in the air and say cheers when I count to 3. Yes, ready? 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Yes, very good. Seems like the sourness of the lemon juice is still functioning. So far, no one falls asleep. Okay, without further ado, let us introduce the 5 main points. First thing first, know your own culture. Without even knowing your own culture, there is no way you can communicate well with people of different cultures. Secondly, respect others' cultures. Respecting is the very least thing people will expect you to have, not only for intercultural communication, but for all contexts as well. Thirdly, learn others' cultures. This will enhance mutual understanding and avoid unnecessary conflicts. Fourth, study foreign languages. Knowing a few languages other than your own native language will entitle you the passport to step out to the world and make more friends of different cultures. And lastly, very, very, very important, avoid stereotyping. Never judge a person based on his or her skin color or nationality before you actually get to communicate with him or her in person. So by this, I should end our group presentation this morning. Thank you for lending us your ears, as well as being such attentive audience. I hope you have enjoyed our presentation as much as you did for the lemon juice.
Okay, now we're going to have a Q&A. All right, now whoever asks a question, I'm just going to give you the class participation. Can you please tell me your names before you ask the questions, all right? So we'll start with the Q&A. Anyone?
Sorry, do you mind standing together? Because I need you all get into the camera. Okay, good.
Okay, questions from the floor? Class participation mark?
Besides participation mark, I will also give out feedback. I still have 3 here.
Any questions?
Maybe I would like to ask.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, sorry, my name is Jun Hua. Maybe I would like to ask Senka.
Yes.
In your presentation, you mentioned that Singapore is slowly moving its way to a low context society due to globalization.
Yes.
Do you have any statistics to show that?
Oh, okay. Basically, I'm making a summary from what my group mates presented just now. Yes, and I believe my group mate Yan Xiong has did enough research on this, so maybe you want to share a bit about that?
Okay, I think all of us may know there's an increasing trend in the immigrants, no matter of Westerners or from other Asian countries. So I think this is a big direction that Singapore is moving to, and I also remember that the lecturer also mentioned this in the lecture. So actually I take out this from the lecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. I'm Damien. It's directed to the whole group. So, I know most of you are not Singaporean, but I just want to know what is your view on Singaporeans speaking Singlish. Is it a good thing, or maybe it's part of a culture, or maybe it's something that we should not let foreigners to know about?
I think that it should depend on the situation. For formal situation, we still feel that Singaporean should speak standard English rather than Singlish. I remember that there is a speaking proper English campaign that is organized by some prime minister or yeah. The Mr. Goh mentioned that speaking Singlish will actually bring negative image for Singapore. So I think that if we speak Singlish at home or with the intimate person, it's okay. But for working purpose, that we still encourage that we should use more standard English rather than Singlish.
Sorry, can I add in something? Okay, regarding that, personally, I think that Singlish is a very special language. It is very unique that it cannot be found elsewhere in other parts of the world. Yes, and I think that because it is due to the uniqueness, that Singaporeans should be proud of it. Yeah, because it is sort of like national identity for Singapore. And actually, I think there is no wrong speaking, nothing wrong speaking English and nothing's wrong speaking Singlish. I mean, yes, because like it's based on case by case situation. So like when speaking to your friends in non-formal situation, when speaking Singlish between Singaporeans, it actually fosters the bonding because it creates a sense of commonalities. But for situations like formal kind of situations and speaking with foreigners, it will be best for Singaporeans to speak English with them so as to avoid unnecessary misunderstanding.
Hi, my name is Mark Woon. I have a question with regards for the whole group, with regards to Singaporeans adapting to foreigners instead of foreigners adapting to us. So I don't know if you all heard this phrase that when in Rome, do what the Romans do. So, for example, I have been to Korea and I've been forced to speak Korean there rather than they speak English to me. So do you feel that Singaporeans, instead of bowing down to foreigners and adapting to their culture, when they are in our land, they should adapt to our culture instead and try to pick up the Singlish instead? What do you think about that?
Firstly, thank you for your question. In the process of preparation, we do consider, like what we say, in Rome, do like the Romans do. But in this 21st century, we should know that Singapore is very affected by much foreign immigrants. So in this case, to stay as in your own culture, I think it's not a good idea. As in, the major population is very much of foreigners. So I think there should be a tolerance there to moving slightly low context rather than keeping at high context. This is my point of view.
I don't really think you're answering this question.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe can I add some more? I think what we have raised out in the presentation is not to abandon our own culture, to learn others' culture, but to respect to others' culture.
Yeah, kind of exactly my point. Should they instead respect our culture rather than?
I think we should respect to their culture, and they should respect our culture too. Yeah, I think it's a two-way.
A compromise.
Yes.
Maybe I can add in some. Okay, so actually, yeah. Okay, this question can be answered by these 5 main points. So as Yan Xiong mentioned just now, it actually is a both-way things. Yeah. So yes, both parties should know own culture, respect others' culture, learn others' culture, study foreign languages, and avoid stereotyping. So by having these 5 points in your mind, yes, there should be minimal conflicts between both parties.
Thank you.
Any last question? Okay, give them a round of applause. Okay, for the stopwatch. For the